Welcome to this episode of Crystal Clear, everyone. Thanks for being here. I am excited. We have a returning guest, third time's a charm for Dr. Kathy Tolleson, made her way to Sarasota to be with us today. And we have a really fun conversation lined up. So thank you.
Yes, when Crystal asked me to talk about our subject, I was wondering how many days we had.
I know. Or lifetimes
Yeah.
or
Exactly.
so yeah, I don't know how fun actually it's gonna be. I refer to it as fun, but insightful. So, the word narcissism is thrown around so much these days. And it's kind of one of those words I don't really like to use because of that. It's trendy, it's everywhere. But to me, from my perspective, what I've learned throughout my coaching with you, throughout my life journey, throughout the research and the healing and all the things is, there's like a core kind of, I don't want to say motive to that but essentially narcissism is emotional unavailability, correct?
It's one of the elements.
One of the elements.
One of the elements.
Kind of, I don't know. Let's just dive in. Just break it down for us. Like, what does that mean?
The first thing I would say is it's very important to understand that narcissism runs on a continuum. It's not just all or nothing. There's varying degrees of narcissism. There's different types of narcissism. There's what we call malignant narcissism, which can be very wicked and extremely self-serving and really damaging to other people, which is part of where we get narcissistic personality disorder,
which is a clinical diagnosis.
Yes.
Okay.
And but a lot of times people will have narcissistic tendencies in area, but you can't just label that, well, they're a narcissist.
Right.
And I think that's the term we throw around and we label people in a wrong way. But there's, like I said, overt narcissism, there's covert narcissism, and they're different. And like I said, even in that, there's different levels of narcissism.
It's like a spectrum, just like anything else.
Yes, like autism spectrum. It's not all or nothing. And so I think too many people maybe have someone who's immature or maybe a little selfish, and right away they're a narcissist, and that's not necessarily true.
Right.
But at the core of narcissism is an inability to have empathy for other people. They have trouble putting themselves in the shoes of another person, of how they might feel and what they might need. And it's an egocentric world. I always say that, every teenager goes through a narcissistic stage, because they're very egocentric. It's all about them. It's not about what your schedule needs,
Right.
or I wonder how mom and dad would feel about that. It's about me. But as we mature out of that, or should.
Right.
But when there's core narcissistic traits in someone, they don't. And that can be at different levels. And again, narcissism is a hard one for people who aren't narcissistic to understand, because if you care about people and you think about how they might feel, or you don't feel like you deserve, narcissists a lot of times believe they deserve special attention, or if
had this like grandiose type.
Yes, I'm more important than everybody else, even driving, a lot of some of the road rage is actually narcissistic road rage. I'm the most important person, and where I need to go is the most important place, So there's again, there's all kinds of different levels of it, but I think part of what people need to know is that it comes from two different spectrums, which is very interesting. And it stems from early childhood, really. The roots, true narcissism lies in those roots. And there's two sides of the spectrum. One of it is they were, they might have been an only child, only grandchild, indulged, or maybe the youngest baby came along later. They got what they wanted all the time. Nobody told them no. They just are the overindulged narcissist. And then you have the one who their ego at a young age was extremely neglected. They didn't get the attention. They didn't get the care. They didn't get the emotional connection that would cause them to care about another person because they weren't cared about. Their needs were not in concern. So they don't really know how to have a concern and care about another person. And so it's two opposite extremes. But, and with narcissism, again, from the mental health perspective, it is like one of the hardest things to treat because they don't ever think they have the problem. Because if they own the problem, their own ego is too fragile. You would look at a narcissist who can, especially the overt, they can walk in a room, they can charm everybody loves them. They can, just be the most wonderful person. And you would think, well, they don't have a fragile ego. But if there's that narcissism there, they really do because they have to have that attention. Some people get confused because they like, well, but he's such a good person or she's such a good person. And, she helps all of these, foundations or sits on boards or whatever. And you can, whether you have money or not, no money, all in between, a narcissist can look altruistic, but that's just it. They want to look that. Right. They feel
like
better.
They want to play the role. Almost.
Right.
Of like they need to be on the stage. They need to get the
accolades.
They need the awards.
Yeah, especially the overt narcissists. If they weren't patted on the back for what they did, they wouldn't be doing it.
I feel like I'm like opposite of that when it comes to some stuff like that. Sometimes it's like uncomfortable for people to like dote on you too much when you're doing things
that are just from just to
like,
help someone and just from your heart and things like that.
It's like awkward.
But narcissists will learn that when I do these certain things, people think I'm wonderful. So they do those things.
It's really interesting because when our youngest son started kind of like kindergarten this year, we were talking about the difference between like traditional school and this alternative type school that he's going to. And this alternative type school, they're building community, they're giving them, challenges, guiding them to find the solutions on their own. Whereas in this masculine traditional society wherein it's all like you're always seeking the reward, the pizza party, the good grades, the honor roll, it's like it's all about the accolades. But the way she explained it was brilliant because it's like if we're always seeking the reward, we don't like we take the meaning away from the action of doing the right thing or learning something. Like learning doesn't matter. It's the grade that matters.
Right. And am I better?
Right. So it's like, and this, it just made me think of that because it's like the behavior doesn't matter. It's like, I just want the reward.
Right. Exactly.
And so tell us, kind of break down, if you can, what the difference between the different types are. Okay. You said malignant, you said covert, you said overt.
Yeah. So malignant goes into like the narcissistic personality disorder.
It's like the extremes.
And they are, they're like, if you've ever heard of Bernie Madoff, who just ripped off a huge amount of people with investment, millions, probably billions, it got close to, of money. They're malignant in the terms of the damage that they can and will do to people and totally justify it. And, a lot of times really blame their victims. And so that's like on the highest spectrum. The covert, like I said, and let me explain this too. We talked about, with gender, there are still more male narcissists in our society than female. It used to be like maybe like 20-80 on that.
I feel like it's way higher than that.
Well, right now
for females anyway.
Females in the last like 20, 30 years has really climbed in the number of female narcissists that there are. And, there can be a number of different factors to that. I think women have taken back their power in some ways, but sometimes, again, if you have other issues, you can take that too far.
Right. And that's actually makes me think. So something popped up when you're saying that. And before we get too far, I want to ask. So if you think of the past 20, 30 years, what's happened? More women have gone back to work.
Yes.
And we're more working moms now. So it's not always dad being gone or dad traveling and mom being home and having dinner ready for us and being there to be the nurturing people in the home. So I don't know. I just crossed my mind. Like, maybe does that have something to do with it? Maybe it's more of like,
well, and I think it's
the validation, like we've talked about several times.
Well, and a lot of children haven't been getting as much of the nurture, the true nurture.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yes. And so there's been an increase. I mean, again, social media, our whole society, especially America has one of the highest levels of narcissism. But, our whole, stars and sports figures and, idolization of all of that is, I think has also increased that whole thing.
Well, it's just a very ego-driven society that we live in here. Yes. It's like this grandiose, like more is better. And, I mean, you and I have talked about this a lot. Like the more we accumulate in our life, the less I want and the less I feel fulfilled. So it's like, I'm even in a place right now, I want to kind of simplify because I don't want to be the mom that's working so much that my kids aren't getting the nurturing that they need. Right. I don't want to, yes, I want to give back, but if I have the opportunity to not have to be that, then, and taking your power back too, you said that. And it's like, so I see that a lot kind of in this empowerment world. Power means something very different to a lot of people.
Yes, exactly.
So the way we're talking about it is people want like power. They want to be in control. They want to, that's
not being empowered.
Right.
There's a difference.
And that to me, I think is the biggest difference because my girlfriends and I were like, own your power. And then I'm thinking to myself, some people think of this way differently than we do.
Yeah.
When it comes to this.
Well, and I think too, even in, we have such a high level numbers of divorced parents who, again, a lot of times they're having to try to buy their kids, or they don't dare discipline them enough because they don't want, a child who doesn't even want to come and see them because they discipline or different things. So I think there's a lot of different factors, but the thing is, it is definitely on the increase in our society, and it has increased the stats for women narcissists. And, I come across a lot of both. And
give us an example of like
let me do.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I do covert?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Because I think covert is probably one of the least understood, but coverts have a quieter personality. They don't have to come in and be the center of attention, even though they secretly would like to be, but they never were. A lot of times they maintain a victim status in the sense of, well, I could have been great at sports, but my coach just overlooked me, or I could have been, probably a great singer, but my mom didn't ever take me to singing lessons, and no one ever supported me. So they still hold a sense of their own greatness, but also were never able to really attain it. So they're
like blaming it
on others, very much a victim, but still some of the commonality, they're not able to take ownership. And, if someone says something to them with the covert, let's say in a relationship, one challenges the covert, and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy. I'm not that. Da 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 da. Look at I did this. They'll give you a whole litany." And with the overt, the covert, what would happen is if you say something like, I really think you have a problem in this area, or I think you need to work on this, it would be, Yeah, because I'm just the most terrible person, and and I can never live up to what you want, and
So it's like
it's
poor pitiful me kind of
poor
thing.
pitiful me a lot of times, and they will go overboard the other way, to get the sympathy, because then the person will come back and say, "No, that's not what I meant, and you're really wonderful in all
So
these
they get
areas."
the attention, they just get it in that kind of
In a
like
in a more passive, they tend to be a lot more passive aggressive,
okay.
and they're very, they'll be more passive about things.
More like undermining comments
Yeah,
here and there rather
and
than just blatant
yes,
yes.
yes, and they may even, be, like, self-sacrificing in a way, but self-sacrificing in a way that I need everybody in the whole family to know how much I sacrificed for them, you know?
Mhm.
So then everybody goes, "Isn't she great? Isn't mom great?
Yeah.
Look at what she did,"
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
Or, but back back and forth. And so it yeah, so difference, and there's a lot of things you can study online nowadays. I think that's another reason, um because I've worked with people, and it's like there are certain things in life only the puzzle piece of narcissism fits for that person to get a light bulb to be able to get well.
Mhm.
Okay, because nar- different degrees of narcissism will cause damage to different degrees in the people around them.
Mhm.
Okay, so I can have someone as an adult come in and they're still trying to figure out, why didn't my dad love me, and why do I have so much, and why don't I have any confidence, and why am I? And when they start talking about their father, I mean, to me, all the red flags. I mean,
Mhm.
this guy, he might have been, the greatest doctor at the hospital, the chief of police, the principal of the school,
Mhm.
but narcissism is just
Right.
screaming, and when we start talking about it and they start researching and looking at it, they get that light bulb, and it's like, oh, it wasn't me.
Mhm.
They had a malfunction. They could never give it to me,
Mhm.
but they always blamed me why they couldn't give it to me.
Right.
And it's like that puzzle piece sometimes, or in a marriage, especially with the covert, overt can be difficult too. But
And did you describe the overt yet?
yeah, the overt are the
Okay.
ones you kind of can recognize them. They are, they can walk in a room and charm everybody, everything's
Mhm.
about them.
Okay.
They need the accolades. They
Yes.
need,
Okay.
if they're gonna go somewhere, they need to be the prettiest or the sharpest or have
Mhm.
the best car or
So
what.
they're insecure.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
they're
yeah,
insecure.
their ego is extremely fragile, but you would never
Yeah.
do it, and they're always touting what they just did, if
It's all
you
about
say,
them
"Oh,
kinda
I
thing.
just came back from my trip to da 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 da,"
Mhm. Well,
it's like,
we went
"Oh,
to blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
we went to,"
Yeah.
they one up in conversation all the time. They always one up, and a lot of times they will dominate the conversation, where the overt might not do that as in the
Mhm.
same way, but a lot of times the the covert one still will be really good at getting conversation back to them, you
Okay.
know, back to them.
So, do you feel like because you know, I can think of a handful of people throughout my lifetime that have had these narcissistic tendencies. I don't know if
Mhm,
I've ever really had anyone that was like all in
mhm,
malignant,
mhm,
but definitely tendencies. Do you think it's possible because I feel like it is, but for someone to have narcissistic relationships in their lives but not with other people? So say like a father or a mother-son relationship, but then the son has a decent marriage or the daughter has a, great relationship with her kids, but she has narcissistic relationship with her mother.
Oh,
Or, you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like it's
yeah,
like
but
people
part of
can
it.
have those tendencies towards someone that they have old wounds with,
Yes,
but not
but it's recognizing where the old wounds come from. That's what I'm saying, that, like helping someone get over divorce. Normal divorce is hard, but if you're divorcing a narcissist, it's hell. And so realizing that part of the reason that relationship never worked, part of the reason why the divorce was so hard is because you're really dealing with a narcissist. And that's the puzzle piece. And it's so hard for people who aren't to really wrap their head around that somebody like just really doesn't have that empathy, that really doesn't care. Now, a lot of times narcissists, like I said, will tend to learn, hey, when you go to a funeral and be empathetic, you need to show a little you're sad.
Right. Or if they have children, they can do that for their kids. But
to a degree. But they're looking at their watch when they can get out of there and how quick they can get out of there and what they're going to do next. They're really not even.
They're not present.
They're not really present. And the other thing, narcissists can look like really good moms and really good dads when their children are little, when they give them a lot of hero worship, when they make them feel good about who they are. But where push comes to shove is when that child starts getting old enough to maybe challenge something or have different agreements or different opinions, and they don't just become kind of mini-me's. That's when pretty soon the narcissistic mom or dad, that relationship will really shift because they can't handle that this person, or they start pointing out like, well, mom, you always care about that more than I feel like you care about me or whatever. Right. When they start challenging, that's when that relationship will start distancing with the narcissist.
Interesting. So instead of having the empathy and compassion and even excitement that your child is individuating.
Yes.
And so it's almost like those types of parents don't want their children to individuate. They want them to follow suit. They want them to go because a certain path that they have planned for them.
I am the hero. I am the heroine. So
I sacrificed everything for you.
Right.
So
and you should
be
you should want to be like me and think like me and, make choices like I do. And I mean, again, a narcissist will cut off inheritances, very, very easily because you're not following, and you've challenged me, you've questioned me, and so they will, they can just cut someone out of their will very easily.
Yeah. So what, it's interesting to me because, and I think it's definitely a huge thing to mention, like narcissistic tendencies. I mean, that's not a life sentence. People can take accountability for their life and be open to healing at any time if they're willing to face it and move forward. I mean, I've seen it happen. And I think it's really important, and something that we've talked about quite a bit is like when you are using substances, especially alcohol, and you're under the influence or painkillers or whatever, like anything that's altering your state of mind and your prefrontal cortex and shutting that down, that's going to shut down your empathy. So that's why domestic violence rates are so high. That's why people get in bar fights. That's why, so it really not only does it affect the limbic system, obviously, but when you're in relationships or you have, or you witness relationships or your parents or anyone who has been under, because I, from my personal experience, I witnessed it, and I can't say that anyone, probably a couple people in my family have some narcissistic tendencies, but mostly because of their substance abuse.
Well, and that's one thing that I always say, every addict is narcissistic. Okay. They are.
Yeah. Because it's about them and what they need and
they're egocentric. They're not really thinking about, well, you need some time with me. They're thinking about, how can I get to my next fix? And when can I have another drink, or when can I go shoot up, or prescription drugs, the same thing.
I mean, maybe it's not even just substances. Maybe it's anything.
Yeah. It when there's an addiction, they can be very narcissistic. I mean, a woman with a shopping addiction can, drag her. I see some of them sometimes, these kids that are just drug around department stores or malls and everything. Their Saturdays are drug around the mall and they're miserable.
You couldn't pay me to take a 5-year-old to the mall.
No,
no.
But if you
a lot of time outside,
right? But if you have a shopping addiction or you know those kind of things,
when it's sacrificing other people for what you need and what you want,
right? So everybody's narcissistic. Like I said, two different people can look both narcissistic, and they both go through recovery, and one comes out of recovery and there's not the narcissistic tendencies because they never really were. The addiction made them. And another may come out and still have the same narcissistic tendencies. Okay. And depending on the degrees, like you can have someone who maybe they picked up some narcissistic traits because of their family of origin and different things. And they can end up maybe working through some things and develop. But some of the core narcissism, like I said, it's the hardest to treat. It's they can learn some different behaviors, but the natural place of empathy and being able to really put yourself in others' shoes, it doesn't come instinctively.
Right. There's no passion.
They can learn to parrot it, so to speak.
Right.
And try to
understand what people want to hear.
Right. But, it just really depends on the degrees of that, how much that you can work on coming out of recovery. Again, the prefrontal cortex is critical because, when you talk about our limbic system is all about our survival. And so a narcissist is, if they're really limbic, and they haven't had that prefrontal cortex development, again, they're gonna be fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and they're going to be worried about their own survival. So that's part of our maturing. That's why I say all teenagers, they're narcissistic, but that doesn't mean they're going to stay that way.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to emphasize, like, not in the way that they're totally manipulative and, that kind of thing. It's that,
they're egocentric.
For example, it's right. It's like, well, why can't you take me to the football game?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because it's in 2 hours and I have plans. It's those types of things. It's like they don't understand how much it's, the parents have going on. They don't understand what may be going on with the younger siblings. They just kind of go through and their brain is going through a pruning process.
Right. And it's about them. And again, and not fully developed till they're about 26, And so that's when, I always say,
that's when we form like most of our relationships, if you think of it.
Yeah. And and so, I always say, you're going to have to wait a little bit until you get that, Mom, I really appreciate, I really see what you did for the family, or, Dad, you really sacrificed a lot. That you're not going to see that from them usually as a teenager. They have to be, but that takes the prefrontal cortex to be able to look and see what different things took. Not just, this is what I need right now. I need you to get me to that football game. What do you mean you can't bring me?
Right.
Because they're just driven to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would kind of the difference between, or I guess I could think of it this way. So let's think of like different types of relationships with this. So a young child with a narcissistic parent, what does that type of parenting look like versus a young child with an emotionally unavailable parent?
Well, a lot of times the narcissist will be the emotionally unavailable parent,
but what's
not
the
always
difference necessarily?
Well, I think like let's say a dad and a son. Okay, the narcissist dad is at his kid's game to be able to see them win, do the best. They might be the dad who berates the kid on the way home. You really should have caught that ball. We need to practice. What was wrong with you? You weren't playing your best today. And so not only emotionally unavailable, but sometimes
verbally abusive,
verbally abusive. And and that can be done with kids that are very young or all the way, or if the parent, the parent who I'm going back to a dad who, their garage, their car, they have a prize car, they're working on it. And the child, well, Dad, can I help you? No, I really, you might mess something up. I really, I've got to work on this today. And well, could I try, Dad? Well, if they do one thing wrong, they're out of there because the car
is more important.
Is more important and is part of the ego for the dad than the son being able to help her learn.
I mean, I have a lot of projects I have to work on, and I don't always allow my kids to help. Yeah. Like sometimes you just have to get it done, though.
Well, yeah, that depends on, is that like the rule all the time or the way it is? It's like the mom who fashions herself as Martha Stewart, and her kitchen, the food, all of that, table, the home, everything. It's not really livable.
Right.
And it's all about her, and it's all about how she entertains and how good her house looks. And so it's not about these kids who just want to try to live there.
Right. It's not a livable house.
It's not a livable
fingerprints on everything.
No, because it has to be perfect. Or, I've worked with so many people of varying degrees, but it's like the yard. It was like the yard and what the neighbors thought and everybody thought of the yard. And so even if they had like something special to want to go to, no, you have to mow the grass and it has to be to this specs, and you have to, and not thinking, this is a 12-year-old who just wants to go on a play date with his friends and go to something special. But no, you got to do the yard because that's what that's what makes Dad feel good about having the best yard in the neighborhood.
Right. So it's about them, not about the kids.
It's not about them.
It's always about them.
Yeah. And it always goes back. And then narcissists are really good at coaching it. Like, well, when I was a kid, we had to do chores, and I'm just teaching you how to have a work ethic.
So these people, I would assume, still try to parent their adult children.
Oh, yeah.
Like they don't understand that adult relationship.
Yeah,
they try to parent
always
and then
knows what's the right thing and what was the wrong thing, and they have a very strong opinion on that, and both overt or covert. And so, they will try to, we've talked before about parent-child adult communication. They have a very difficult time adulting really with anybody. Even in the business world, they will tend to be, I know better. Even if someone has a good suggestion, maybe in their business or whatever, they will take it, but a lot of times they won't give the other person credit, and they will use it, but they'll do it from a more parental way instead of a teamwork. Like, hey, Susie just had this great idea, and I thought about it, and I thought it was really good. And they don't do well at sharing credit, and it's difficult for them to take information from other people. That's why a lot of times they say, well, they should go to a counselor. They will decide they're smarter than the counselor. They will know more. They will tell the counselor. I've worked with someone not long, because usually, and then if the counselor starts challenging or getting close to touching anything in their fragile ego, they will immediately find ways to discredit, leave, not. They're like your maybe 1 to 3 time visits, and then they're out of there.
I was like, what causes that? I mean, it's deep wounds, like we said. Like it's really deep lack of either, love, affection,
nurture,
all of these things in childhood.
Or overindulgence.
So it's like, the spoiled child that gets everything they ever ask for, or
but also don't get the real love,
they get
real
the stuff,
connection.
but they get what they want, they don't get what they need.
Yes. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of that going on.
Oh, there's so much
And
of
I
it in
feel
our
like that
world
maybe
today.
has been why it's increased over time. I mean, and as a working parent, I can relate. It's like, say you have a really busy week and then you go all out with your kids on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you pour all in and you do
Yeah.
all the things and then like you have a really busy week and then you go all in and it's like, okay, but there needs to be balance there.
Right.
There needs
Or
to
you
be
have
more time during the
you
week.
have the divorced parents as like,
Yeah, I can relate to that as well.
you're gonna have the world's greatest time here,
Yeah,
and
the
you're
fun
gonna get
house versus the
this
disciplinary
one,
house.
yes, instead of both kind of operating in balance.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, I just expect this, and I expect if I throw a little tantrum. I mean, you see these adults throwing tantrums at, in airports because somebody told them no. Someone told them no, or God forbid.
Or someone didn't acknowledge
How
how much they worked or how much they did or so thinking back of like, we've done the love languages, life languages, all the things. So if your love language is like words of affirmation, please, I'm just thinking about people listening to this right now thinking, oh my God, am I a narcissist? I really like when people tell me, like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, oh my God, what have I done to my kids?
Most of the time, if you think, oh, maybe I might be a narcissist, you're usually not. You're usually
You've told
not.
me that before.
Yes.
But it's funny because we always self-diagnose ourselves in one way or another.
Yeah.
So it's just thinking of that, like, if you're a words of affirmation person, like, it's okay to want.
No,
like there's a difference. So tell us kind of help us kind of distinguish between, and then this is why I think it's such a gray, trendy thing because people hear things like this and they're like, oh, that's me, or that's my spouse, or that's my boy, or that's whoever, that's my mom.
It's
that's
really
my
easy to
boyfriend.
just, diagnose somebody.
So, how do you distinguish like the difference, I guess?
Well, like again, in my chair, a lot of times I can evaluate the difference is how much did that damage the other person?
Right. Like how much have you sacrificed someone else or
Yes.
something else?
Yeah. And how
for
much
your own.
how much damage did that really do to this other person? A lot of time is the degree of narcissism that was really happening. Especially if, as a child, teenager, I have a lot of adults when I start saying, you know what you're telling me, it sounds like your mom or maybe your dad or had a high level of narcissism. They're like, really? But everybody loved them. Especially the overt narcissism. They love it. They're the ones they always, if they go out to eat, they pay for everybody. They will.
Because it looks like grand gesture.
Yes, and what a great guy. Or she's so sweet. She just helps everybody. She does everything for everybody, but you try to live with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So, like I said, usually if you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm a narcissist, you're probably not, because narcissists, if, and the thing about narcissists, if they're challenged or, really poked in an area, they have something that's called narcissistic rage. They will get enraged. That's why, like, if a person ever starts trying to leave a narcissistic relationship, they are, scorched earth. A lot of times, it's like the words you talk to a divorce attorney and saying, I need a divorce, but I think my spouse could be a narcissist. There's fees go up.
Right, fees go up.
Fees
well,
go
I mean,
up.
those are the ones that just spitefully burn you to the ground.
And they
without,
don't care how it affects the children. They
the ones that fight for custody, even though they've never done anything for the kids,
and they
that.
don't want custody. And I've had to live through some of those with people I've worked with, and it's just so painful. I've just had somebody, and actually just last night, and again, should have been no reason, long-term divorce, no young children, no anything. Florida, 50-50 should have been cut and dried. 2.5 years of hell, and him being the one that wanted it, and a real long-term marriage. But 2.5
So it's
years.
just another version of control. So they essentially just want the
control.
The control.
And I had told
which
I
is
called
just,
it every,
which is like insecurity.
Yeah, I called it every level. I would say, okay, now he's going to do that. Oh no, he would never do that. He did it.
Oh,
Because
wow.
she had been very naive in a lot of things and was a real pleaser, real empath. Always just tried to make him happy. Plus, she had had a very narcissistic father, and he wasn't. Her dad was a covert, an overt narcissist who was just really out there, and he was a covert.
So let's talk about that, because that's a big one. Usually, people who are empaths,
yes,
who are super highly sensitive,
yes,
who want to help and who want to fix,
yes,
naturally gravitate towards these types of relationships.
Very, very
because
often.
They see the red flags
Yes.
and they see the tendencies,
but
and
they
totally think they can fix them.
Right.
And
right.
it's like, why do we do this?
Yeah. Well, because of the empath. And in the beginning, again, the narcissist, they will do what we call love bombing. And love bombing is, oh my God, I could never talk to anyone like I could talk to you. And love bombing is gifts.
And do you feel like that's true sometimes, though, too? Like, do you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
That sometimes, yes, they just feel that empathy coming and they just suck it all up. But sometimes they could.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you think it's subconscious, or do you think it's conscious? The narcissist part, like if you
I think a lot of it
someone,
is subconscious. I don't think they're consciously doing that, but
it's feeding them.
It
fueling
feeds them. It's like we call it narcissistic supply.
Okay.
But all of a sudden, when you're feeling like, oh, I'm really helping this person and everything, and I'm not saying you're a narcissist to want to do that, but then all of a sudden, when you're or all of a sudden you need something, I need this from you, and that's when
then you're needy, then you're crazy,
you're needy, and what's wrong with you? And again, some of the terms, gaslighting, making you feel crazy. Again, when I talk to somebody and it's just like I just feel like I'm crazy, no matter what I do, it isn't right, and they're always upset and different things. Those are some things that's why it's so important for people who have had either high-level narcissistic parents or a narcissistic spouse to be able to really get some help afterwards, because it does a number on them. It does a number on their self-esteem. It does a number on them being able to set boundaries. It does a number on them of just, still feeling like, well, maybe there was something else I could have done.
Well, and a lot of times these people also they have those tendencies because that's the behavior that's been modeled for them.
Yes,
exactly. They don't know any better.
Right.
Or they have one parent that wasn't and one parent that was, but if they spent more time with the parent that was, then they think that this is how you treat people. This is what love looks like. This is what, this looks like.
Yeah.
And that's really sad.
It's very insidious, and it's different. Again, like the high level, like we talk about narcissistic personality disorder. If you look it up, it will say that it's a form of mental illness, but it's very different than like schizophrenia or bipolar or, borderline personality.
It's very high functioning. I
yes.
feel like.
And so they live amongst us. I mean, and you can have it. You can have it in every world, business world. I can watch political world, definitely. In the pulpits, we have a lot of high level, big name, but they're narcissists. And like I said, a lot of times you can start. I've worked with it, studied it a lot, worked with some, and had some of my own personal experience with it. That there's and even narcissists, when they get older, even if they have life crises, a lot of times you think this life crisis, this is going to get them to really, really change. Or this is going to be a wake-up call, not to a true defined narcissist.
Right.
It's not. There's a really good book that I recommend for people if you think that you may have had a parent that was a narcissist, and it's called Children of the Self-Absorbed. And
I've read
it's
that book.
Yes, and it's a study related to.
Who's the author again?
I don't even remember.
Okay, Children of the Self-Absorbed.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Okay. And it's really interesting because for the child, there are two, and I've recommended it to a huge amount of people, and they're like, I get it. But usually the child of a narcissist will go one or two ways. They will be the very compliant, so compliant. People pleaser, everything. Or they will be in rebellion. They will be defiant. And they can go in either one of those directions.
But have a hard time in the middle, probably.
Yeah. I had someone that I recommended that book to, and I didn't give them, I should have given them this warning, but they were like, they saw it, and they really saw it in their parent, and things like that. So before we talked about it, they recommended it to the parent. And so the parent reads the book. But again, this is classic narcissist. Classic narcissist is they have a conversation. No, oh my God, I can see where I really messed up some or anything. No, that I read that book, and then the conversation was all about, that's why, my stepdad was a narcissist. That's why I have so much problems, No ownership of their own narcissism. No, just turn the whole book onto them. No apologies. No, sorry, and no change in behavior.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that just from my own personal experience is like the sorries. There's no sorries.
Yeah.
Never an apology because nothing's ever their fault.
Right. There's always a reason.
There's always a reason. There's always a justification. There's always something. And that brings me to, and you brought it up, so we have to talk about it because, again, it's another term that's thrown out there and tumbled around, and it's so trendy. Do you know what I'm going to say? What?
I'm not sure.
Gaslighting.
Gaslighting. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just part of the vocabulary.
So what? Well, give me an example of a gaslighting conversation.
Well,
say a stay-at-home mom, and her husband, say she goes shopping or she wants to go on a trip, or what if her husband were to gaslight her? Say she's like, she's with her kids all the time. She's doing all the things. Husband is provider of the family, because I've seen this actually quite a bit in my life and my peers and things like that. She books herself a girls' trip. So what is, and so, there's sabotage that can come along. There's not the ability to have financial freedom. There's, conversations that would make her feel like she's doing something wrong, or who are you going with, or what are you going to be there for?
Right.
Those types of things.
And gaslighting always has the element of, you're really crazy. You didn't hear what you heard. You didn't see what you saw. That wasn't what I meant. So, like, in that case, it could have been like she tells him, and at the time he may not even think that she's really going to do the trip, because a lot of times she doesn't, or different things. And then she says, oh, I've got that trip planned, and I'm going, well, we didn't even talk about that. Well, we did last month. I mentioned it. Yeah, but I don't even remember it, and you never brought it, and you never said for sure you're going.
Okay.
So are you? We didn't have that conversation, and she's like, I know we had that conversation. No, we didn't, because I would have told you no, because I have an important meeting, and I can't be handling all of this right now.
Right. And I feel like that again boils down to just not being present.
Yes.
Not being present.
Yeah, not being present, or maybe they were present, but they can just turn it and color it. So you start thinking, am I crazy? I thought we had that conversation.
Right.
or, it can be a conversation about, let's say he goes out and buys something, really expensive, and she's like, well, but we talked about that we were going to really, if it was a larger expenditure or whatever, we were going to have a discussion and da 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 da. And then it can be, well, you never appreciate how hard I work, or, you don't ever think I deserve anything because of
or
that.
It's my money because I'm working.
Yeah. And it's my money. And, we never said for sure. We just talked about having more conversation, but I would think that you would want that for me. And pretty soon, all of a sudden, she's the bad person for not wanting him to have it. The conversation that they were going to partner,
because she feels like there was no connection.
Yes. And so that the gaslighting turns it, and it deflects it, where the other person really starts questioning their sanity, in terms of what they've heard, what they thought was communicated, what was really going on. I mean, and there's some master. I mean, I know, narcissists. I know. All came out. She finally took him to court.
That is so traumatic.
The most traumatic. I mean, there were I think it was 70 guys that they had recorded. Yeah. Yeah. And who knows what else. Malignant narcissist. Can you imagine doing that to your wife who's in her 60s?
In her 60s?
She was in her 60s.
Oh, I mean, not that. I mean,
but he was people
Was he in his 60s?
Yeah, she was shocked. The children were shocked. The neighborhood was shocked because he was just such a good guy. But he was
a
malignant freak show and a malignant narcissist. Yeah, it was in France. I don't remember the lady's name offhand now, but I had to, I dove into a little bit and heard some interviews where she did, but she decided she was going to get on the stand, and she was going to face him and these other men. Again, divorced him, and
well, good for her, but that's still so traumatic.
Yeah, so traumatic, so
and just
broken,
violating. I mean, that is the ultimate. The person that you're supposed to trust the most with your. I mean, how about those vows?
Yeah, and that's
honor and cherish. And,
and that's how far a malignant narcissist.
So they are just absolutely brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then try to, spin it.
Right. Exactly. So what are some great resources? Because like you said, there's a lot of this out there, and we did use males as a lot of examples, but there are a lot of females. There are a lot of, what do you recommend? Like, where do people start? Because some of these relationships can be very dangerous.
They can be dangerous. They're toxic. And I think YouTube has a lot of really good stuff on it.
So on malignant, on overt, on covert, and
but
classic.
I would just start with like a simple, what does basic narcissism look like? What are the basics of narcissism? And and don't be quick just to label.
Right.
Just to totally label.
It's the world we live in, though. We're quick to label everything.
Yeah. Or to use an excuse, yeah, I'm divorcing him. He's a narcissist. Yeah. Well, it's not that simple. And again, I do know relationships that have, where there has been evolution in it. Would I say that they like totally end up the most empathetic person? No, but that they can work out and they can have conversations, but there has to be a certain amount of an acceptance that I'm not really good at that.
Right.
And help me, and a working together that, you can, and a lot of times for the family's sake, for each other, sake, there can be, work done to make it, livable.
Right.
But you also have to realize in that there are, you can't, like I said, you can't squeeze a rock and get lemonade.
Right.
There's some things you just might not get, but what are you able to receive in the relationship? And what's the best overall decision?
Right.
Now I've worked with some people where, the person is so narcissistic, it's like, run while you can.
Right.
Because a lot of times they call it narcissist discard. They can discard people like a dirty tissue. I'm talking 40 years of marriage, 20, but when when you're no longer serving their purpose and something else or someone else they can discard you. But sometimes a narcissist will start rejecting, but then they haven't found a real other good place of narcissistic supply, or maybe their kids are still giving them narcissistic supply, and then they will kind of throw out crumbs of doing better, and then the person like, oh, he's really changing. But it's really crumbs, and they haven't tested it.
When they haven't gotten to the root of, because like we referred to addiction. Like, well, you might not be addicted to that thing anymore, but it's on to the next.
Yeah.
Or it's like, they choose healthier things to fuel it.
Yes.
So it looks different, and it might feel
I'm
a little
I'm not
different.
snorting Coke anymore, but I'm on my phone all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'm eating sugar all the time.
Right.
Or
right.
I'm, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that because this is one that just really, it's scary because, like you said, it can be so brutal to divorce. It can be so brutal for children. It can be, it can be very life damaging. So
it absolutely is.
So any of you who feel like you might be experiencing this or have experienced this, grace and compassion, show yourself all the love and strength, but make sure you have a really, really good support system and a really good kind of plan, and really navigate through your own healing before you try to make a transition, because I feel like that could be,
if you're too vulnerable at the time, it can
you could be left with nothing.
Yeah, and destructive, even in the divorce process and things. And
because they're the ones that'll keep on going just to go, just to be the winner.
and a lot of times, especially the more grandiose, the overt, a lot of times it might be by that time
we're fighting over $20,000, but we've have quadruple that in mall expenses now.
I know a couple like over $1 million in attorneys, and end up with the very settlement that she basically had said in the first place. I think this would be fair. She was being more than fair. Of winning. Just so you know, they have to win. They have to win every argument. They have to win every battle. They have to win.
They have to be the last word. They have to have the last say. They have to. So like anytime you find yourself in conversation, it's better to just leave it, because otherwise it's just going to be a waste of energy.
Yeah. And it's just going to all come back at you, because they have to win. Like I said,
you're the one that needs to be fixed.
He was getting close to being absolutely forced.
Yeah.
That he was either going to be drug into court or he had to sign this divorce decree. And I mean, called her up, and the person who hadn't talked to her besides emails in almost 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Called her up and just reamed her.
Oh.
And I said, he is in narcissistic rage right now, because he's being forced to do something, and it looks like you're winning. And he's looked at all of this as all his, even though you've laid down your life. He's the one who wanted you to quit a good career that you had in the beginning, and be that stay-at-home wife. Factor. Just take care of him. Take care of the kids. Do all of that.
But so they knew they were in their small little box.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh. We could go on and on and
we
on.
could. That's what I'm saying. There's so many.
I can think of like 5 people in my life that it's like, but they're all so very different. And it all showed up very differently for everyone.
Yeah.
And the relationships are all different. They're not like that with each person.
Yes.
So it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
And I feel like we just scratched the surface.
I know. And it really, it's really infiltrated our society to such a great degree. And like you said before, it can be, like I said, very damaging. And I know part of the healing process I've, learned over the years is if I can help them to see the puzzle piece, like, no, you just weren't having a divorce. You were discarded by a narcissist. It's a whole different
a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different level of healing. It's a whole different experience.
Yes. Or and the one thing what I love to do, especially for young women, is I say I give them narcissist repellent. Okay, because I help explain, especially the covert, the overt more of the love bombing. If he comes on too fast, too quick, goes overboard and everything, just look out.
Red flag.
Look for these red flags. If you have a conversation about something, and if you just try to challenge a little bit and say, well, I don't really agree with that. I don't think that see the response,
Right. And I think that's important, because yes, there are relationships where people will go above and beyond and want to treat you and take you places and do things. But you have to have this level of discernment, I think, especially in those new phases where you're learning and exploring and getting to know. So like, I think the big key takeaways in any relationship to think about, whether or not you have a voice, whether or not you're heard. It's one thing to have a voice. It's another thing to be truly heard. Like, is that person hearing your perspective, and are they responding in a way to nurture that perspective?
Yeah.
Is it always about them? Or are they willing to budge and compromise and be open, and if it is, I feel like finances is a whole big thing that's really sticky. I mean, in a lot of different relationships, because I think generationally, we all have financial trauma in some way, shape, or form. Just generationally goes back to the Great Depression. Everyone experienced it in some way, so I think that we all have something there. So just making sure that those types of things are fair and open and transparent
and don't rush.
Don't
rush, because a lot of things you don't see right away.
You don't see right away, and you have to experience life with people. It's like, when everything's great, that's a perfect time to get married. No, wait till shit gets messy. See if you can clean up the mess together, then get married.
Right. Or if you're separated from someone and they've started like kind of re-love bombing you or just over things, don't just go. See how long. See if you kind of put some brakes on that, because if they're a narcissist, they'll turn on you in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I didn't want you anyway.
Right. Or you probably got someone else and blah blah blah. If they turn on you that quick, it's not genuine.
Yeah,
it's
the
not
accusatory jealousy stuff is really
and
like prominent with the narcissist, right? Like the jealousy type personality.
Oh yeah, because they need it all.
They want all the attention. They want to. Oh my gosh, we could go on and on and on. If there's one thing or a couple things you want people to take away from today's conversation, or to take it forward, any other books, any other resources, recommendations, what would that be?
I think, like I said, the one thing is, especially for those who've had parents, that maybe this has sparked, maybe my mom was a narcissist, or maybe my dad was, like online, they really have some good differentiating, like, the daughter of a narcissistic mother. How does that affect, and where did that affect you? And what has it caused in your life? So you can be able to get well. You can get
perfectionism paradigm.
Yeah. Or, or a narcissistic dad. Or if you are, a man or a woman in a relationship that's, you think has some of those narcissistic tendencies, do some study, look at it, and it, like I said, especially if you're not married, you have to really, sometimes you're married, you have kids, you have a lot at stake, and a lot of different things may not be as easy, but, especially, if I'm talking with someone and they're in a real recent relationship and all the flags are, they check all the boxes. I always say, if you can check the box and say, well, I think it might be a rose because, it has petals and it has thorns and it has these kind of, well, it's probably a rose. And if you check all the boxes for someone you're seeing or of narcissism, if it doesn't, run. I hate to say it.
Get out.
Run. But do it. I always say, do it like backing out of a room very carefully, because you don't want to hit the narcissistic rage and what they can do to people now on social media or anything like that. You want to back out gracefully, take ownership. Yeah, I agree. This isn't working. I really need to do some work on myself, and I'm gonna work on that now. And and just
make it about you,
back out gracefully, and then other ways to say, okay, how can I be more resilient if I'm making a choice in this relationship, but do it realistically, and say, okay, but I have a need for more connection here. Again, I don't recommend going out and having an affair, but look to your friends, look to other places where you can find more of that emotional support that you need.
Oh, actually, we just had an event yesterday. Resilient Retreat is a good, I feel like I plug it all the time.
Yes,
but it really is.
They're
I'm on
amazing.
the board of an organization, and we provide free programming for people that have survived trauma, abuse, helping professions, first responders, all the things. But, we deal with a lot of, and we have a lot of participants that do our programs that have had similar relationships, whether it was parental or, romantic, and free programs. You can call, you can screen in, you can see online, they're virtual. That's a great resource too. And
I want to give you a couple classics related to physical abuse with a narcissist.
Oh God. Okay.
So physical abuse with a narcissist, I've actually heard this before, is I can't help it if you black and blue easy.
Oh,
Another classic is they won't actually hit you, but they will let a wall hit you.
Like push you into the wall.
Push into the wall because they're too good a guy to hit you, but they'll throw you out of a car. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. And they can be very
it's like backhanded and physical.
Yes. Yeah. Or, or it may start off at just like wall punching and
that person punching a wall. And
then, because it's saying, if you don't shut up, that this is what I can do to you.
Ew, so it's like the empty threat kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not empty. And it will move forward. Yeah. But a lot of times they won't hit you directly because then they would be the bad person.
Okay.
But they will physically do a number on you.
Well, we're going to leave with that.
Oh,
guys.
my goodness. It's a warning. It's a warning.
Oh my God. But the great thing is there are so many resources out there now. And if you feel like you need or have experienced these types of relationships in your life, I think it's really important to seek the help that you need to be very gentle and strategic and,
and
just
stop
use
blaming
discernment
yourself.
And don't blame yourself. You're not crazy.
Yeah.
You can take your power back in an empowering way, meaning, you can own that you're worthy of a better life. And I think that is what I would like to put out in the universe with all of this. If you've experienced, it doesn't matter where the relationship came from in your life, you are absolutely worthy of a better life. You're worthy of being treated well. You never should be told that you're crazy. You deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, to be loved, and to be nurtured. And thank you, Dr. Kathy, for being here today. We could go on and on and on, but that's going to be a wrap for today. Thank you.